This is Bel'Shir Vestige Ladder Edition spawning up in the top left-hand position as the blue Zerg from STX Soul. His name is hyvaa.
His opponent spawning as a red Terran on the bottom right position of Bel'Shir Vestige. His name is Fantasy, playing for SK Telecom T1.
Both players currently have a loss. Can they turn it around for this round? Nice little pun there. We'll have to wait and see. I still feel like Fantasy, this is definitely a matchup that can work a lot better for him than hyvaa, just because we haven't seen a lot of hyvaa's ZvT. He almost never gets sent out for that. But look at that.
Grammar.
Happy S2's debut.
Six. I don't know how to read
Second,
that.
6th anniversary? Is that what it says?
No, it says 6ST.
Oh.
Not 6TH.
6ST.
I mean, they think of it as like first, and then, you know, it's like 6th anniversary, and except there was a huge grammar issue right there.
All right, well, I guess congratulations to him. And we have a drone scout on the way for our STX player, hyvaa. It just wants to make sure that there's no proxy racks. There's a nice shot of Bunky there. Probably the most...
The gentleman dance that he was doing right there.
The gentleman dance from the new Psy song.
Well, gentleman / abracadabra dance. I don't know how many people realize that it's from the girl group video.
You're like one of the 3 people out there watching the stream that like understands that joke right now.
No, a lot of people understand the dance because it was also big when the song came out. So you're the one who doesn't understand the joke.
Oh, I guess I don't, unfortunately. All right, we have a hatchery coming out from our Zerg player here. Following the spawning pool, not going to go ahead and get the gas though, so it looks like he's feeling pretty comfortable against what Fantasy is up to. But Fantasy getting that refinery tech, so it looks like he's going to open up with a Reaper, potentially follow it up with some factory play. Could go ahead and get that expansion though instead.
So hyvaa did make it through the Challenge League qualifiers, and now he's in the Challengers League. His opponent, Fantasy, of course, you guys saw him play. He lost against TJ 1-2 and lost against True 1-2 to drop out of round of 32.
Unfortunate for Fantasy, but you know what? We're going to see him again. It's just, this guy is too good to stay out of the Premier League for that long. Even the games, even though he lost, they were fantastic games as well. So I am not surprised if we see him eventually back into the, I guess, the Code S League, out there in the top. We're playing with the best of the best. I just feel like Fantasy's been having a bit of a tough time. Things haven't always worked out his way. Like, he's still showing us great games. It's not like he's, you know, being like terribly outplayed or anything like that. It's just that, you know, he's not winning, unfortunately.
Yeah, what happens to players like Fantasy is that he starts losing to some of the early aggression builds while he's trying to play too greedy. And some point down in the line, they start having this misconception of saying, well, I'm not playing this game well. But the fact is, they're playing the game well. It's just that they're being unfortunate, but they don't realize that as a player. So they start losing their confidence, and that's the problem with Fantasy, is that I think he lost a lot of his confidence from the Pro League and dropping out of round of 32.
Nice snipe there, by the way, on that drone there with that Reaper. And now this SCV has to be a bit careful, actually, because there's nothing they can actually defend. The Reaper comes and is going to be able to defend that SCV, but will it get sniped off by that other drone, or, sorry, Zergling? Nope, it looks like it will survive and finish off that command center.
Triple command by Fantasy while also going for the reacted Hellion, so seems like he just wants to get the 3 factories up, get many SCVs out as possible, and transition into mid-game.
I like how when that couple was found on camera, they're like, oh, should we hide? And then they kind of like, they went halfway, but they didn't go all the way.
The couples really never hide themselves on the camera because they have nothing to hide.
I think like
really.
they were so used to being ready to hide, and they did it halfway through, and they're like, wait, we're a couple. We don't really need to actually.
We need the confidence to be on the camera.
Exactly. All right, we have a couple of Hellions being made by Fantasy here. And it looks like he's going to wait for 4 of them, potentially to move out. Maybe he will wait for 6. He is making 2 more right now. So after that, after the Hellion's complete, he will be applying some pressure here, trying to scout with that Reaper. But it gets caught between those 2 Zerglings there.
Three
Zerglings. Couldn't see behind that Overlord. So excellent positioning by Fantasy.
Those Zerglings look really pesky, so it's hard to count how many there are once they're on the creep. Now, great thing about Pro League is that they actually changed the creep color a little bit. So sometimes people are saying, oh, the game has so much high contrast on the stream, but no, it's because they modified the map so that the creep doesn't look, you can look at the units much better on the creep. It's not that the contrast is changed for the stream.
So nice job for Pro League to do that. I also love how they're always willing to take risks when it comes to the maps. They try out a lot of new concepts, and if they simply don't work, they'll eventually take them out in the next round. So that's something really cool that I feel like we don't get to see enough in other tournaments and leagues. Alright, so we have some Hellions around here. They're just going to be able to spot that third base. Not going to be able to do too much damage really here, so they're going to move back. Just try to have some map control for now, but look at this. We have some Widow Mines out on the way for Fantasy here, so maybe we will be seeing a little bit more pressure from him shortly here.
Yeah, he's going to transition to Bio because he has a sim coming out, and I really want to see Fantasy going for the multiple drops in TBC. You know, he played fantastic series against True, and from what all of us know, his Bel'Shir drop micro was fantastic back in Bird War. If he can do that with Bio, then he should have no problem winning almost every single TBCs out there.
We'll have to wait and see if Fantasy can decide to pull that off. We do have the double engineering bay going down for Fantasy as well, so he's going to be focusing a lot on those upgrades, but not getting the +1 armor. Maybe he forgot to get that.
Maybe he forgot to get it, or he didn't have enough gas at the time when he pressed it and didn't realize it. So.
That's a good point. Definitely could have happened to him there. Hopefully he will figure that out soon and be like, oh, wait, I got to better research this +1 armor, because right now his opponent Hyvaa is getting the 1-1 right now. And looks like we have a bit of a skirmish here. Zergling's getting roasted by those Hellions before running out. Not too much damages or losses have been taken there, but they are forced to skitter away.
55 drones on Hyvaa right now with 47 SCBs on Fantasy. So, the only reason why Fantasy is behind the work account is because he's facing against Zerg. He already has third hatchery up, and now he's going to try to saturate it as much as possible. Fantasy doing a nice job moving around the map with the Hellions, and that's what he needs to do. I mean, those Hellions are not going to be as useful once it goes to mid-game to the late game, once the Speedlings come out, once a lot of Banelings come out, and once the Mutas come out. So all he has to do is just run around the map, deny creep as much as possible, and also deny Zergling scouts.
Indeed, Fantasy is still doing a pretty good job here with his map control, I might say. But Hyvaa, his creep spread is starting to get out of control here, man. He is moving across the map with that creep, already covering a good portion of his side of the map. Spire Tech on the way as well. Centrifugal Hooks upgrade for the Banelings as well. So we're going to be seeing a Mutaling Baneling unit composition from Hyvaa, and just the standard bio with a Widow Mine tech from Fantasy.
Both players have been really passive so far, I have to say. And now we're around the 11-minute mark, and Fantasy doesn't really have that much forces out because he got a third fast command center, so he was focusing more on getting a lot more economy earlier in the game, and he's getting a lot of add-ons on his buildings actually. So once those finish, he's gonna start mass-producing Marines, mass-producing medevacs, and some Marauders in the mix, and that's when the Zerg player starts to focus. They need to focus. If not, then one medevac can actually turn around the game.
Definitely being on top of that drop harassment is so key for Zerg players nowadays. It feels like the Zergs, they don't have a lot of wiggle room compared to the Terrans when the drop plays come through, because if one drop does a lot of damage, all of a sudden you are so far behind as a Zerg player.
Right, so now the time has come, and now Hyvaa has to be defensive for... Hyvaa has to be defensive for the next few minutes until he gets the Hyvaa, until he gets the Infestors out or the Ultra. So now he needs to defend against the main push and the multiple drops that Fantasy might do.
Nice scan by Fantasy, killing off a lot of that creep tumor there, really trying to keep this creep spread from getting a little bit too out of control here. It's so hard for Terran players to properly engage on that creep, even when they have with that Widow Mine support. So, Fantasy trying to fight back the tide, essentially, here. And doing a pretty decent job at it, at least from that side. But now, Hyvaa, he's moving out with a lot of his forces here, and this could be a very scary engagement here. And the screen's flickering on us, so unfortunately we can't see what's going on right now. There we go, things are back to normal. Marines moving forward there. Looks like a good amount of Zerglings were killed off. Only 2 Hellions remain, though.
The Widow Mine actually killed a lot of Zerglings right there, having 14 kills, and that actually pulled back Hyvaa from the entire push. Fantasy having nice macro, trying to draw away the Zerglings from the Marines, and it was pretty much a nice trap at the ramp, and Hyvaa took the baits, and he lost tons of Zerglings.
Alright, so that's an expansion, unfortunately for Hyvaa, gonna have to be cancelled. And is the third base gonna be under attack? I feel like the Zerg, yes. Is he gonna go? No. deciding to turn back at the last second. Not going to go ahead and engage that third base quite yet. Fantasy looking like he's going to be maintaining a pretty decent advantage now.
One thing that I haven't seen Fantasy do is go for the multiple drops, and now the fourth base is under fire on the minimap with a single Marine.
One Marine.
Hoorah!
One-man army. An army of one. And also we have the alligator teeth upgrade for the Widow Mines being researched now. That's going to allow them to burrow a lot faster, and a lot of Zerglings on the way behind an infestation pit from our Zerg player. The 2-2 on the way for our Terran player, but the Zerg is ahead in upgrades right now with the 2-2 already done. Medevac getting ready to head across the map, but the Mutas look like they are ready for it.
Yeah, the Mutas are just bouncing back and forth left and right just to make sure that he could deny the Medevacs as soon as he scouts it.
The Zergling is trying to take out that Widow Mine. There we go. It'll finally be taken out here. I have to say, Fantasy is...
Oh, that was a little mistake. We have the Mutas on the left side, and Hyba actually missed the Medevac.
He did miss the Medevac, and for some reason deciding not to engage, they're actually just going to go straight for the third with those Mutas here. And this base is going to potentially go down from Fantasy. He's in a perfect position. Going to try the micro against those Lings, but the Lings, they get a great surround on the Marines, and they're going to be taken out. But we have another drop heading towards the third and the natural. But look at that. Hyva is ready at every possible location. But, oh my god, another drop in the main base, as well as a battle going on in the middle of the map. Fantasy is absolutely everywhere.
This is what I was talking about. Once he knows how to actually micro all these different Medevacs and also push out on the map, that is when the Terran players really get scary. And Hyba, he has Hype out on the way, so he's been doing a really nice job just trying to go into Hype Tech, but time is ticking out for Fantasy, and he's pressuring his opponent. The fourth base gets taken out, and he needs to go for the fifth base on the right side while also harassing inside the main base.
Fantasy now getting his 3-3 while Zerg is still on 2-2 because the Hive isn't completed yet. This drop in the main base will get taken out, but now we have two Medevacs heading towards the other potential fourth base of Hyva. If Fantasy can prevent the fourth base from going up, I feel like he can take this game. He's currently ahead in supplies, and he is absolutely all over the place. Look at that, 64 Marines, but there are 132 Zerglings out for Hyva.
Well, those 132 Zerglings are nothing against the micro Marines and the Widow Mines around the map, so Hyva really needs to be careful and start taking them out one by one. If not the Zerglings, one bad Widow Mine, and they could do a lot of damage just like that.
Indeed, nice. Two Widow Mine hits going off. Those Mutalisks are going to be very low on health, and now this fourth base trying to go online, but look at that. Widow Mines in excellent positioning, killing a lot of those drones there, and now, oh, the Banelings getting killed off too. Still many of them remaining, though. Fantasy forced to lift out of that location.
The Baneling actually connected with the Widow Mines. It seemed like the Widow Mine actually connected with the Banelings, but it was the other way around. And this Medevac actually gets sniped inside the main base. So really nice shot by Hyba, but that's also, and that's a lot of Zerglings over there. But during this time, Fantasy can also drop at the fourth base once again.
So he's going to continue to go back to that fourth base. Constant drop harassment from Fantasy over the past 5 minutes now. He's just been consistently at it here, but Hyva is doing a very good job at defending against this.
Oh yeah, all he has to do now is save this fourth base. Fantasy, he did what he could do. He was harassing constantly around the map and got a fourth base up for himself. The problem is, did he scout what his opponent has, and is he expecting Ultras anytime soon? Because if he's not, and if he only has pure Marines, those 4 Ultras, that's going to be a huge problem for Fantasy.
4 Ultralisk on the way right now. The 3-3 is starting, as well as the armor upgrade for the Ultralisk. So if this drop can get in there and potentially snipe that Ultralisk cavern or the spawning pool, that could be a very, very big deal and hurt Hyva's army a lot here. Now this units will get sniped off here, but they did get the spawning pool, and now the Ultralisk and the Infestors are seen.
The Ultras are completely out of position. They cannot get to the Marines at all.
Nice fungal there, killing off a lot of the Marines, and now a big drop, or sorry, lift going to happen. Those Widow Mines are absolutely destroying this Ultralisk-based army, though. They're doing a great job. Holy crap, so many humongous hits on these units here. Now, the Widow Mines are all essentially taken out here, but this attack from Hyva, it's not going to do anything.
Oh yeah, there's only one Ultra, and that's not enough. Why is he sacrificing that Ultra to the Marines? I mean, he didn't have enough army, and here comes a reinforcement by Fantasy. He could pressure up to the fourth base and possibly take it out if he micros it perfectly.
Fantasy very far ahead in supply right now. The Widow Mines is doing so much damage, and there's not many Ultralisks out right now. 5 on the way, and the Mutas count is now pretty much 0. The Ultralisk getting taken out. This fourth base, it's gonna go down. Hyva has to evacuate this area right now. The Widow Mines have just done way too much much damage to his army.
And this is also what happens if your upgrades are slightly behind your Terran army, Terran opponent, and even if you take out the army, you need to start running down on the economy of the Terran player. Hyvaa, he was doing such a nice job taking out the Marines and the medevacs around the map, but he never touched Fantasy's economy, and that's the reason why Fantasy, even if he loses an army, he constantly make a whole new 200 and push out, and that's the reason why Hyvaa is having such a hard time right now, because he cannot match the production of the Terran player.
Indeed. It looks like Fantasy's multitasking is just simply outmaneuvering, outplaying Hyvaa at this point. It's 199 supply to 144. Fantasy has kept his opponent on 3 bases while he has 4 bases. And Fantasy also, I saw, was building command centers a little bit earlier on as well, so he'll have that extra mule production. And I feel like this is just, it's only a matter of time before Hyvaa eventually runs dry. All right, so looks like we're having a little bit of lull in the action here. Some Widow Mines positioned there near that natural ramp, and we're going to have more drops coming in from Fantasy here. This expansion can't be dropped down because there are 2 changelings there preventing that command center from positioning itself there at that 5th base. Fantasy getting ready to move out here. He has a nice amount of Widow Mines as well to protect his army.
Fantasy also needs to be careful because I feel like, if you give your opponent too much time, then he's going to get a lot of ultras, and that's going to be hard to deal against with. But sniping the Ultraless Cavern, that's going to be a really nice thing for Fantasy, while his opponent is going for the counterattack at the 3rd base.
Yes, even if this counterattack can somehow kill off this expansion, I feel like it's not going to be enough. The Ultraless Cavern went down. That Ultraless barely got by those units there. This drop will be picked up. The Spire getting targeted down too. And now Fantasy's main army is going after those Ultralists, and they're forced to run away without being able to do critical amounts of damage to Fantasy's economy. Nice Banelink connections there, but I feel like it doesn't even matter at this point.
He needs like 20 of those happening at once, and then maybe he could come back and win the game. The problem with the Ultras when he decides to go for 3rd base is that he didn't have any Banelings, he didn't have any Zerglings to actually buff the army.
Those Ultralisks are almost dead now. One of them at very low health, the other one has taken some hull damage there. The other one getting killed out. Fantasy moving in, trying to strike at the heart there. The Widow Mines, they're going to get taken out potentially by those Banelings. A few are able to burrow. Nice fungal connections there. Look at that, a huge surround on Fantasy's army. Where did those Ultralisks come from?
They were all around the map, and now he actually gathered the army. That's something that he needed to do 5 minutes ago if he decided to go for the counter attack at the 3rd base. Now, behind this, even look at the supply right now, 181 to 138. Hyvaa doesn't have any economy, so it's really crucial for Hyvaa to take out extra bases while saving his Ultras.
Oh, this could be the big win that Hive is looking for here. He's able to take out that planetary fortress, killing off one of the additional command centers, and if this one is not lifted off, it could easily die as well. Good fungals on this army, but holy crap, look at the medevacs. That is just raining green healing beams at this point, and I think that the Ultras, though, they're still able to barely just go through this army here.
This is not going to be enough. I mean, eventually the Ultras are going to get taken out, and there's no way the Hyvaa can remake these Ultras.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem with Hyvaa's army. He needed to save the Ultras. After killing the 3 command centers, he should have left maybe like, 1 or 2 Infestors over there for the Fungals, Banelings, and the Zerglings while saving the Ultras. Because Zerglings, you can make like, 50 at a time if you have enough minerals.
And that is the problem for Hyvaa now. He is certainly not rich. He doesn't have a lot of supply at this point, and Fantasy still has the other base on the other side of the map. So even though he lost 3 command centers over there at that right side base above his main, it's not the end of the world. But now Ultras and Lings moving in here. They spot that expansion. Will the repair happen in time? These SCVs and mules are not doing anything now. The repair going down, but the Ultraless DPS is very impressive. Will Fantasy's army get there in time to save that expansion? It's getting lower and lower on health, but the reinforcements will arrive. The planetary fortress does indeed go down there just barely, but that's pretty much it for Hyvaa's army here. He has a few more Ultralisks and has one more in production, but that's just not a lot of army and supply compared to what Fantasy has.
Yeah, it's just like really bad situation for the Zerg player because he has a hype, tech, but he can't make the army.
He certainly can't make the army. And look at Fantasy. He has a large bank right now, still almost maxed out in supply, continuing his harassment. I feel like one big attack from him could potentially even just end this game straight up.
He's just playing it really safe because he doesn't know how much minerals and gas his opponent has saved up, and he doesn't know about the entire army situation. And now I think he has a really nice assessment. Look at the number of medevacs. Oh my god.
19.
Oh my god.
19 medevacs. Look at these Marines. being lazy on the job there, not doing anything. They're right next to that Hive cluster. They could attack it. They're deciding not to. That is a pretty large amount of Widow Mines moving in here. They're going to burrow right by the Ultralisk, and they're going to do a huge amount of damage. Humongous Fungals going down, but the problem is this Terran Bioarmy just way too strong for Hive. This is going to be it. GG. Fantasy taking game number 1 over Hive. Simply, he was everywhere at once, and eventually Hive's defenses did crumble.
I have to say, Fantasy's drop harassments came a little bit later than the most Terran players that we see in Pro League. However, once he started doing it, he dropped at 3 places at once and went for the main army. That was like, no Zerg player can actually focus on 4 places at once, except maybe someone like on a high caliber like Life, but even Life would have some trouble defending against multiple drops.
Indeed, I feel like there wasn't enough static defense there as well for Hive. I mean, for a while he was responding at an amazing pace against those drops, but as time went on, you know, Fantasy started cracking at Hive's defenses and eventually was able to break through and deal critical amounts of damage.
That was crucial, and also Hive lost the bases and he never remade them, and he was never able to secure up to 4 bases for such a long time to get the Hive tech units out. Yes, he got some Ultras out, but once those got taken out, he couldn't